set. It's go time. Welcome, everyone. I'm retired police chief Lauren Culp. I was a narcotics detective and a police canine handler during my career in law enforcement. I'm bringing you real life police stories from the people who lived them in their own words. Today, I talk with retired DEA agent Sam Kaiser. In the first part of this video, we talk about what it takes to become a DEA agent. Then we go into an actual case that I was involved in with the DEA and Sam, a case that Homeland Security almost ruined. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications of upcoming videos, and share with your friends. And don't forget about my sponsor who makes all this possible, MinutemenCoffee.com. Let's do what we do. Welcome to the show, Sam. How you doing?
Thank you. Good to see you. Doing well.
You were a DEA agent.
I was assigned to the Spokane office, and then when you were the chief of police, and we worked on a good case up there, so we became friends, and that's how we know each other.
Well, first of all, why did you want to be a DEA agent? Let's go back in history. What's it been, 100 years?
Probably about 30, or when I first started thinking about it, maybe a little more, maybe more like 40. But I was friends with a Boise County Sheriff sergeant. We went to college together and hung out. We were talking about police, and one night at the bar, he told me that DEA guys really kick ass. They go on surveillance for weeks at a time. And, he told me some stories about them just sitting in hotel rooms and getting all. He said DEA was the best law enforcement as far as, getting good action and stuff. So that's when I first started thinking about it. Then I went to law school, and I was standing in the hall, and they had a little pamphlet that talked about DEA. So then I really didn't want to practice law because I didn't like wearing suits or dressing up. So then I decided to apply to DEA. Plus, Miami Vice was big then, and I really liked that show.
Oh yeah, Miami Vice was a big hit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we share that in common. I don't like to wear suits either.
Yeah.
I only wear a suit when I have to. So yeah. You thought about being a DEA agent like 30 years ago. And so then how long were you?
Agent for 25 years. I applied when I was in law school. They had a freeze on hiring. So it took me 5 or 6 years to get hired. It's a long process. So it cut my career a little short. And while I was waiting, I had to practice law and do some lawyer stuff. And then I finally got hired. Did divorces and DUIs.
Yeah, DUIs are fun.
Yeah.
Can you tell everybody what the DEA looks for in an applicant? I mean, it probably depends on, the type of positions. I'm sure there's several positions, right? Not just undercover agents, right?
DEA is all the same. There's only one kind of agent. I think FBI has a law program where they have lawyer agent, but DEA is enforcement, and they all do the same thing, which is enforce the federal drug laws. So it's they say they look for people with financial degrees and backgrounds because money laundering is a big thing, but I still haven't met even one agent with a degree in accounting or finance. The majority of agents, more than 50%, all have some kind of military background or connection. Probably, more than 50%. So
military background helps a lot in quite a few.
Or former law enforcement. So most of the agents that I've met are former military or law enforcement. A lot of them have had criminal justice degrees. Supposedly, if you have a finance degree and are fluent in Spanish, you have a leg up. You always get a leg up if you have a former military experience, and then you get extra points in your application. So you have a little better chance of getting hired.
Okay. Once you get accepted, once you've applied and they say, yeah, we're hiring you, then do you go to training? What kind of training, or do you have to pass the training before you actually get hired? How does that work?
Yeah, you have to take a couple written tests, physical test, which when I took it, it was there was a 2-mile run. You had to do it in under 17 minutes, something like that. That's changed a lot now. And then you had to do shuttle run, push-ups and pull-ups, and the test was pretty difficult for a lot of people. A lot of people didn't pass it. Then you go to the academy, and the first day you have to take the physical test again. And if you don't pass, and they kick you out. I've heard that's all changed now. It's only 1.5 miles, and I don't think you even have to do pull-up. The shooting's a lot easier. So
yeah, I think the military has gotten a lot easier too. From when I went in, I joined the Army in 1980, and it was pretty old school. We had Vietnam veterans as drill sergeants, but a lot of that's changed now.
Yeah.
From what I hear, it is easier. Same thing with the police academy.
The academy was, was fun for me because I spent most of my life, going to college and going to law school. And then it wasn't like a full military environment, but it was definitely paramilitary environment that I think that the PT that we went through was, I would say, harder than, basic training. We ran and every day, long distances, and did some intense PT. And then shooting. Those are the two main things you learn. I mean, you learn basic law enforcement law and stuff like that. But I think the shooting and the PT, how to deal with informant, and are the main things you learn at the academy.
And how long is the academy for DEA?
It was a little over 4 months. It was at the FBI Academy in Quantico. So
okay.
DEA has their own building now. When I went, it was in the FBI building. Now they have a separate DEA Academy, which is about a block away from the FBI Academy.
So is it 25 years ago? It was 4 months. Has that time length changed at all, or do you know?
I think it's about the same.
Okay. Are you originally from Washington?
I'm from Boise.
Okay.
Went to high school there, went to Boise State, and went to University of Idaho.
Okay. Were you assigned, I know you from working with you in the Republic area, but were you assigned different places around the world, around the country?
I got hired out of Boise, so I worked in Boise for a few months, and then my first office was Los Angeles. I went to Los Angeles, and I was a little older than most of the average agents, so I felt like I had a timeline to get some experiences. But Los Angeles just in itself is a pretty intense experience. You work 10 hours a day, minimum 6 days a week, usually more like 7 days a week, and you hardly get any time off. Put in a lot of hours in LA, and there's a lot of crime, and it's a lot of group as far as any kind of drug law enforcement that you want to get in, you can do in LA or the bigger offices. Like you can be in they have big clan lab groups, border groups, and groups that they'll just work on wire cases, and groups that just specialize in violent level street crimes that do search warrants almost every day. I had a good time. I was there a couple of years, and then I wanted the experience of going to language school, so I put in to go to Puerto Rico. I was able to go to language school for 6 months, which was a good benefit, and then went to Puerto Rico for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Did a 3-year tour in Puerto Rico, which LA was dangerous and violent, and East L.A. was really dangerous. But show up in Puerto Rico, and the whole island is like East L.A. times 10. So then after that, I came to Spokane, kind of a reward. Going to Puerto Rico, you get a little nicer office after you're done with that.
How long did you spend in Puerto Rico?
3 years. 3 years. It seems like a lot longer. It wasn't an easy office. It was hard, kind of everyday living.
I can imagine. Yeah, when I was in the Army, I was in the 101st Airborne, and in 1982, I was part of the Rapid Deployment Force with the 101st, and we flew to Puerto Rico on a training exercise and stayed at the Rosie Roads, now not there, but it was the Naval Base, Naval Air Base.
My son was born there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I spent a couple of weeks there. Beautiful, tropical white sandy beaches, but yeah, they didn't want us leaving the base, and we couldn't be, out on the beaches at night.
We went there as much as we could, because that was the only place on the island because it was a military base where we could go, because we were government and they let us in.
Yeah.
And I could leave my gun in the car and feel safe going swimming and snorkeling and hanging out in the military base, and nowhere else on the island you could feel safe.
Yeah.
Even in your own office, if you went downstairs to eat lunch, and that got robbed a couple times. There were shootings every day. It was really, really violent, and you had to be on your toes the whole time.
You have any war stories you could tell people about? Any big cases you were involved in? I'm sure you dealt with people that were involved with the cartels, right?
Don Amon here, president and founder of Minuteman Coffee. Want to welcome you to the coffee revolution. We may not be everybody's cup of tea, but we are the coffee for we the people. Come join this coffee revolution, see what all the hype is about, and help us restore the republic.
Yeah. If you're an active agent on the street, especially these days or anywhere in the country, the cartels have the country split up. Different cartels used to control each separate part of the country. Now it's a little more mixed, but even small little towns have a big cartel presence, high level cartel supervisors operating in pretty much every little town in the whole country. And Yakima, big one, the Tri-Cities, everywhere. Spokane wasn't quite as big as Yakima and Tri-Cities as far as like the high level cartel guys that were permanently assigned. But we'd go there. Every case we worked would have some kind of connection almost immediately to high level cartel guys. And I like to go around to the smaller towns and work with the local police departments, and in addition to doing the other work. But we had that big case in Republic that we worked together. You were the co-case agent, and in the local task force up there, that case was we identified that guy as the biggest drug dealer at the time in the Ferry County, Okanogan, and Stevens, the biggest supplier at the time. And
yeah, he was moving a lot.
Yeah, and he had, I think you guys were making arrests, 1 or 2 arrests a day, people directly connected to him. He had his own compound up in the mountains by Republic, which is very isolated, one of the most isolated cities probably in the country. We had him identified in Okanogan. He lived there before he moved to Republic, and had him identified as a big target, and never could quite put him away.
Yeah.
But then he ended up in Republic, and he became a huge problem. Pretty much was taking over the whole town. And
yeah, it was a mess. Suicides and assaults and thefts, burglaries. I mean, crime was out of control in Republic.
That was
a lot of drug crime.
Out of all the cases I worked, the target in that case was probably one of the top 10 as far as scary, criminally minded people. He had I think about 40 customers that were basically heroin slaves.
Mm-hmm.
He would pay people to work on his building a house for him up in the middle of the forest, and pay him with small amounts of heroin. And it was very difficult to get into him. He had, one of the reasons it was hard to get into him, he was so isolated. He had to drive first to get up to Republic, which 3 hours from Spokane.
Yep.
And then once you get there, you got to drive up into the mountain, and he had lookouts and
no easy way to access the place at all. I mean, it was on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
It was very.
And so when you do an operation like that, you need to take security as the main factor, and doing an operation up there was really challenging because it was so isolated. I'm sure that's why he went up there. But it was such a big problem in the town with people getting arrested every day that they would go up there and get use heroin and come down, and then you would arrest them. And
yeah, I remember working up towards that case, with my narcotics canine, doing traffic stops and getting informants and sending them up there to do buys. And I remember one of my informants went up there to do a buy, and they stripped him naked, put him on a tarp, and put a gun in his face. And he held it together and actually got off there alive. But that's how ruthless these people were.
Yeah, and I think some of the women that would get stripped, and we heard that a few of them got raped. So it was, and they had these little rock forts built up. So we heard in case the law enforcement ever came up there, they could take cover and return fire. And we heard eventually that they had a lot of guns up there, that they were maybe possibly selling guns. And so it was a scary organization. Then on top of all that, the Homeland Security, local Homeland Security, did not help the situation, because anytime you would arrest someone on the street, they would go to your jail and interview them and show them pictures, basically tell them everything that law enforcement had found out about the organization. So that's one of the best things I did in that case, was I went and talked to their boss and told them what they were doing. They were pretty much burning the case, so we couldn't work it. And she ordered them to stop.
Yeah, that's one of the big things I learned early on. As a cop, you're not there to give information. You're there to get information. They were the beans on everything.
They were very unartful, and they were horrible drug police, the Homeland Security guys there. And they ended up both getting transferred out of there, in large part because of what they did with that case.
Yeah. And
after we got rid of those guys, we were able to get some informants, and the task force guys got informants who didn't get killed or raped, and we got a lot of undercover work done, and a lot of buys, a lot of recordings. After months and months of work, we were able to get a federal search warrant. And then the guy was, main guy was such a violent, scary guy. We had to wait till he left the property because it was just too dangerous to go up there, because he had just bragged to everybody that he was going to shoot it out with the police. And there was no way to sneak up there without him seeing. So waited for him to go to Seattle and pulled him over on the way back and arrested him. And then we had the plan.
Pretty close to the same time that we executed the search warrant on the property, I think, right?
That was the plan, to arrest. As soon as we arrested him, to roll up there, and it was about an hour-and-a-half drive to get there from where we arrested him in Okanogan, and immediately do the search warrant. So we were allowing the Okanogan County SWAT team to assist. Even though it was my federal search warrant, their SWAT team was going to do the main initial entry. They had this urban assault vehicle they were going to use, and we went to the briefing, and the guy that gave the briefing was just one of those SWAT team guys. He's very arrogant, probably a little below average intelligence, but thinks he isn't. Thinks he's smart because he knows tactics. So he gives a briefing, very arrogant briefing. But we had the plan. We're rolling up there to do the warrant. We're at the initial meet spot. As I had left the town, I drove by their county SWAT vehicle as it was heading up there. So I knew they were on the way. And then we're waiting for a couple hours, and they didn't show up. And then it started getting dark, and we only had like 20 minutes before it got pitch black. And the SWAT team obviously wasn't coming. So we went ahead and secured the location, which was a big compound with acres and acres in the forest. And so it was a pretty scary situation. There ended up only being 3 guys up there at the time. You know,
one of them was guarding the gate.
Yeah,
there
was a gate, and we had intel that, you know, there'd be up to maybe more than 20 people sometimes up there. So, but we had waited for such a long time. I think one of the right-hand men, he became alerted that we were there, and he was able to get away. We got up there and secured it, and then it got pitch black, so we couldn't do the search. But we knew from the investigation where they hid some of the guns, and we got these 2 big bags of guns that they had stashed up there. And we have the big bags of guns sitting there on the ground. And the next morning, you're the one that caught that right-hand man. He was coming down the mountain, and you caught him up. But then we interviewed him, and he was hiding in a tree. Still makes me mad. It'll make me mad the rest of my life, because tactics have always been very important, especially to DEA. DEA is very tactically sound, probably the most active law enforcement organization as a whole in the whole country. We do warrants all the time, and we train all the time. We're almost a lot of our units and groups train more than most SWAT teams. So to have a SWAT team commander not even show up for the warrant, and I talked to his boss. The political situation didn't allow his boss to, really do much about it, but never heard one thing from that SWAT guy afterwards to this day. He was the most incompetent piece of crap for someone to do that, to not show up and not even call me or have any kind of explanation. And it turns out that he became the sheriff of Okanogan County. So Okanogan County has probably the worst sheriff I've ever seen right now, because that guy is worthless for what he did in that warrant.
Yeah.
If he calls me, or I'll get in his face, because he has avoided me ever since.
Wow.
Anyway,
not good. But yeah, I remember that next morning. When the number 2 guy, like you had said, we didn't capture him that night, and the next morning, because when we made entry onto the property, we realized there was a ton of stolen property, that had been reported stolen from crimes in the city, crimes in the county, and the deputies and I recognized some things. And so that night I went down and I worked till, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, writing up a state search warrant, so that local police could search through the property for the stolen items. And so I got that warrant done. I think I got a couple hours of sleep, and then I was up early, met with the judge, and briefed the judge. He read the affidavit, signed the warrant. And so I was on my way back up the next morning, and I did, by the way, I don't know if you remember, I did remember to get some donuts.
Yeah, I remember.
from the store. But I was on my way up, and so everybody knows it's a very windy, long dirt road up this mountain that sits up high above Republic. And so it's not a really fast driving road. It takes a while to get up there. In some places, it's 4-wheel drive. But on my way back up there with the search warrant, a truck was coming down the road, and which I thought was kind of odd. Rolled down my window, and I pulled off to the side. It's just a 1-lane dirt road. I pulled off to the side. The guy driving the truck was just 10 and 2 with his hands and driving straight forward and looking straight forward, barely making it past me. But he's not looking at me, acknowledging me or anything. And I waved, and he just keeps looking straight ahead. And I'm like, that is kind of weird. And as they drove by, I sat up in my seat and I looked over, and I could see the back of someone on the floorboard in the passenger side of this truck. And I knew that we were looking for somebody. So I hollered at him to stop. I jumped out, and he looked at me in his rearview mirror, and I put my hand up. I said, "Stop, police." And he hit the gas. And I had lights and sirens, 4-wheel drive, heading down this dirt road. They got around a corner. It was just a cloud of dust. It was summertime, and all the dust was flying up. I could barely see. Come around a corner, and there's the truck stopped. And I jump out, and the number 2 guy jumps out of the passenger seat at the same time. And I'd already called for backup, and he took off running up the hill.
Very happy.
Probably told it a million times.
Awesome that you're able to get him.
He took off running up the hill, and I hollered. I started running after him, and I hollered at him. I told him to stop, or I was going to shoot him. And he threw his hands up and said, "Don't shoot, Culp, you got me," and took him into custody from there.
Yeah.
But not something I was expecting. I think the donuts ended up falling on the floor. I know my canine was in the back seat bouncing around pretty good on that chase, but
yeah, that was a big deal getting him, because he was one of the guys we thought was strip searching people coming up there and involved in a lot of other violent stuff. And if he would have got by you, then he would have been able to harass some of the in town, which he would have. Their lives would have been in danger. So that was great. We were really happy. We were doing the search and heard he got him. So that made our day.
Yeah, that was, like I said, pretty unexpected, but very satisfying to have it happen. Too bad for him. But the main guy got about 20 years in prison, in federal prison. The guy that I caught, I think he got about 10 years in federal prison, and a few others got some prison time as well. But that was a huge case. And, crime dropped off dramatically. Suicides, overdoses, everything dropped off dramatically in the Republic area.
I think you went from arresting 1 or 2 people every day to maybe 1 or 2 a year after that.
It dropped off dramatically. And a lot of the people that we arrested, a lot of the low-level users or the small-time dealers, they went through drug court, a lot of them, successfully. I'm in touch with some of them now. They stayed clean, they got a job, got their kids back because they lost their kids, because they were drug dealers or drug users. But they got the kids back, got a job, and one of them I know for sure is married and has bought his own home. That there's a reason that we do what we do. Yeah,
that's one of the best example that I've worked on of actually being able to see a result, a good result, and it being somewhat permanent.
Yeah.
Over the years, we do big roundups, arrest 20 to 50 people of high-level drug dealers, and just a week later, they'll be replaced.
Right.
But Republic, that case in Republic was very gratifying because still it changed the town back, got the town back.
Yeah, made a huge impact. Huge impact on a lot of lives. That's for sure. In a good way.
And I had a lot of anonymous calls after that people talking about horrible stuff that happened up there, like evil. That was a little island of evil with all the heroin. I think that we found a lot of meth. That was the main thing we found. But he sold meth and heroin. There was the main things selling up there. It was just getting rid of that. It was a great great work. Can't be
Absolutely.
underestimated or understated.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks again, Sam, for helping out the small town and us and the people that live there. And thanks for your whole career of working with the DEA.
Well, DEA agents get paid a living wage, so it's fun and exciting. You can I worked on the street for 25 years, and every day was potential to be a very exciting day. That was just one of the things that I was able to work on. So, and then to work with guys like you and Talon and the local guys up there who became my friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the best things about having the job.
Definitely. Well, I really appreciate it, and I know that everybody that you've been involved in, except for maybe some criminals, really appreciate it as well. Well, thank you very much, Sam. I appreciate you taking the time and letting everybody know about the DEA and talking about that case.
Okay. All right. We'll see you again.
Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Brought to you by MinutemenCoffee.com. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post future videos.